Alrighty, chat. So we're back reacting to some of the greatest content that I enjoy. History of world record speed running, and someone that does it best, especially with Nintendo games that I love, is the channel SummoningSalt. They have recently released their newest video, which is the history of new Super Mario Bros. Wii world records. Now, if you can imagine, at this point in time, the Wii is actually pretty old. Like, pretty much 15 years old, going on 20, which is crazy to me. I remember back in the day, going to my friend's house and playing games on the Wii. Lots of memories with that console, but we're here to watch the history of a popular game on that console, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and the world records that came from it. So let's just dive in, chat. Let's just dive right in.
SummoningSalt merchandise is now available on Teespring. Check out the storefront right below the video.
Check it out.
Enjoy.
Check it out. I love the intro music. This quality is interesting. This game is definitely interesting for speedrunning, I think. I think we'll see some interesting strats here.
One of the fastest growing speedruns of the last few years is New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Close to 1,000 runs are on the leaderboard.
1,000?
A mark that not many games have reached.
Wow, okay.
Naturally, competition at the top level is impressive, because not many people can call themselves a world record holder.
Wow, okay.
A world record demands near perfection, honing in skills that come after thousands of hours of gameplay. Few people have gotten to that level, but those who have etched their place in speedrunning history.
Okay.
This is the world record history of New Super Mario Bros. Wii.
I'm ready for it, SummoningSalt. Let's see it. These videos are so well produced, I like it. What was that boo doing? Wow. I want to know the average time to speedrun this. Like, what is fast? Is it hours? Or an hour? Here we go, we're getting the graph. The timeline, okay.
Let's start up here, at the beginning.
Let's go, I'm ready.
New Super Mario Bros. Wii was released on November 12th, 2009. Normally it takes months or even years before a speedrunning scene develops around a game. For New Super Mario Bros. Wii, it took 4 days.
Okay.
People nearly instantly gathered in the Speed Demos Archive forums to route the game for a speedrun.
Okay.
In the following weeks, times of 45 minutes and 35 minutes were claimed by MWL and Chronorox, respectively.
Okay, we're starting
neither have video
under
proof.
an hour. Okay.
For the next several months,
already good.
runner UC Pro would both route the game and complete speedruns. And in May 2010, he claimed the 2605, but once again, he didn't record it.
2605.
To get to the first recorded
just
run,
starting out, okay.
we have to jump to May 2011, when Rucker uploaded this run. A time of 26 minutes and 56 seconds.
Okay.
Rucker started in World 1. Level 1-1 is quite straightforward, where you want to run and jump through to get to the end as fast as possible.
Right, makes sense.
However, there are subtle optimizations you can make. Sliding down the hills gives you a slight boost of speed, and running through the checkpoint is the fastest way to power up.
Okay.
Rucker also picked up the propeller mushroom for later. In 1-2, he tilted the Wii remote to create downward slopes he could quickly run down.
That makes
and
sense.
picked up a star midway through, which increases your running speed.
Nice.
In 1-3, Rucker used the propeller mushroom to fly up and access the secret exit, which unlocked the cannon to take him to World 5.
Oh, that makes sense.
In 5-1, he had to deal with the water in the latter half, and he simply fell in and swam as quickly as he could.
Dang.
it slowed him down by several seconds. After 5-1, you're forced to run into the piranha plants on the overworld map.
Dang.
Where Riker Z collected the 8 toad balloons, albeit with a bit of a slowdown.
Yikes.
You then have a choice of either playing 5-2 or 5-3, and Riker Z picked 5-2.
Okay.
It's a pretty straightforward stage, where you bounce on top of wigglers and run through the rest. Next was the World 5 Fortress, a vertical stage where having the propeller suit helps immensely.
Right.
Riker Z was able to propeller up from platform to platform, then defeated Iggy with 3 jumps on his head.
Okay.
The next stage was 5-4. This stage is intended to be an auto-scroller, where you ride on this raft while enemies rain down from these platforms above.
Oh, okay.
It's designed to be long and slow, not ideal conditions for a speedrun.
Hopefully you can skip that.
So, instead, Riker Z decided to implement the first game-breaking trick of the run.
Let's see it. Oh, bouncing. I see. Okay, bouncing off the vines after propelling. Oh.
This was first posted by UC Pro just 2 weeks after the game came out, and takes some practice to get right. But thanks to the propeller suit and navigating and jumping at the correct times, it's possible to skip the entire stage by jumping on the platforms and blocks.
Okay.
Riker Z did so beautifully, making a few brief hesitations but still flying through. After 5-4 came the World 5 Ghost House, where Riker Z took the secret exit once again to unlock another cannon, this time taking him to World 8.
Okay.
The fastest path through World 8 consists of 5 levels: 8-1, 8-2, 8-7, the airship, and finally Bowser's Castle. In 8-1, Riker Z had to deal with randomly falling meteors, and he got hit twice.
Dang it.
He powered back up, only to intentionally take damage again later on to boost through some lava.
Huh.
In 8-2, Riker Z once again took the secret exit to unlock 8-7, a hidden level that bypasses most of World 8.
Nice.
8-7 itself is a long stage, consisting of jumping from spine coaster to spine coaster. World 8's airship isn't an auto-scroller like in previous games. Instead, Riker Z had to run through and traverse it as quickly as possible. He picked up the propeller shroom again to jump across big gaps instead of having to wait and slowly bring the platforms down.
That makes sense.
The Bowser Jr. fight was simple, hitting him with 3 bombs that he dropped. And finally, there was Bowser's Castle.
Okay.
Riker Z used the propeller suit quite a bit to navigate at the start, which isn't always the fastest. The last part of the run is the escape, where you have to guide Bowser's heat-seeking fireballs to destroy the path in front of you, then navigate through an obstacle course to the finish. In all, Riker Z finished after 26 minutes and 56 seconds.
Wow.
It was a good starting point. There were some obvious slowdowns that could be cleaned up, but no huge mistakes or deaths, and the video quickly went viral on YouTube.
Okay.
Over the next several months, Riker Z would continue running the game to push his time lower. At the end of 2011, he posted his first new time, a 25:49. This run actually saved time over the 26:56 in every single stage.
Ooh.
Most of his strategies were the same, but were better executed.
Better optimized.
In 5-1, for instance, he dealt with the water much better, jumping out earlier and just barely being able to make it to the end.
Wow.
One of the biggest time saves was in 8-1, where he managed to avoid getting hit by the meteors and didn't have to power back up.
Nice.
But the best improvement was in Bowser's Castle. He guided the fireballs much better in the escape, using 9 fireballs to clear the path instead of 18 in his old record.
Half
in
as many.
2012, Riker Z would get 2 more records, a 25:31 and a 25:27. These runs both optimized existing strategies and utilized new ones. In the escape, Riker Z was able to use just 7 fireballs to clear the path ahead,
Wow.
the fewest ever achieved. In 8-2, he picked up a star to get additional speed instead of damage boosting as Big Mario.
Nice.
And in World 5, he chose to play 5-3 instead of 5-2. It was a more difficult stage, but a slightly faster one if performed optimally.
Okay.
Rucker Z had left his mark on New Super Mario Bros. Wii speedrunning. 4 world records in a year and a half. He stopped running the game. But then something very interesting happened. Despite years going by and many new runners emerging, Rucker Z's world record remained unbroken.
Really?
The leaderboard grew and players got better, but Rucker Z's years-old effort was too much to top. Finally, in 2016, someone broke through.
Okay.
His name was Greenuprooter, and he beat Rucker Z by 1 second. But unfortunately, he didn't record it. Greenuprooter had recorded competitive times before this run, and is a trusted community member, so his 25:26 is taken at face value, but it can't be viewed today.
It's pretty sus.
That left the world record in an awkward place. It had taken 3.5 years to shave 1 unrecorded second off the record. Now, there was no telling when it would be broken again. But in early 2016, a new runner was climbing up the leaderboards.
2016? Wow.
Quickly, it became inevitable that he was going to be the next record holder.
Okay.
In April 2016, he officially did it,
Ooh.
closing out a 25:23 to beat Greenuprooter by 3 seconds.
Okay.
But this guy wasn't just any world record holder. He had reached the top, and he intended to stay there for a long time.
Okay.
His name was Auchgard.
Auchgard. This quality. Oh boy.
Auchgard had been around the speedrunning block before, achieving top times in Mega Man X3, Crash Tag Team Racing, and many other games.
Okay.
It makes sense that he was quickly able to get the record in New Super Mario Bros. Wii.
A
But
seasoned
what
veteran.
nobody could have expected
Speedrunning.
is that the very next day, he did it again, to 25:22.
Next day.
And the next day, another record, a 25:19.
Okay.
Auchgard had set 3 world records in 3 days. He was more consistent than any player who had come before him.
Interesting.
Meaning he hit tricks more often and made fewer mistakes. A big place he saved time was in the escape, navigating through the platforms quicker and hesitating less. And overall, he was able to execute most tricks more cleanly, shaving fractions of a second off in several stages.
Okay.
After these 3 records, Auchgard took a break from the game. Nobody came close to challenging him, with the closest active runner still being 16 seconds away.
Jeez.
His skill level was far ahead of the rest, so he didn't really need to keep defending the record. But he came back in August anyway, and immediately got a 5-second world record.
Wow.
Auchgard's 25:14 was his smoothest run yet. He cleaned up a small mistake in 5-3 from his last run,
Oof.
doing a small jump to be able to run under the blocks while on the walk. His 5-4 execution was also smoother, as he didn't pound the blocks he landed on and was able to continue moving. And in 8-1, he didn't slow down as much while propellering over the lava. These all added up to a few seconds of time save, and he didn't lose any significant time anywhere else.
Nice.
With a 25:14, Auchgard had pulled way ahead, 12 seconds ahead of second place, and 21 seconds ahead of any active runner. He had set a total of 4 records, and barring any new developments, it seemed like nobody else had a real shot of catching him. But still, probably Auchgard's most unlikely feat was the 3-day streak of records he had back in April. Even setting a record on back-to-back days is extremely rare, so extending that streak to 3 days, it practically never happens.
Wow.
Not only did it show complete dominance of a category, but it showed a level of consistency that was unrivaled. It was undoubtedly a once-in-a-lifetime accomplishment for Auchgard.
Wow.
Yes, from August 16th through the 18th, Auchgard once again set 3 world records in a row.
Nice.
Doing this once was staggeringly unlikely, but in all my years of research, I've never heard of someone doing it twice. All 3 records were 25-12s, but each one was slightly lower than the last.
Oh.
The time saves were minimal, but impressive in their own right. The first record had a particularly clean Bowser's Castle. The second cleaned up a mistake in 5-3, and the final shaved a fraction of a second on the rolling hills in 8-2. But still, these 3 records weren't good enough for Auchgard. 2 weeks later, he'd lower it again with a 25-10, his 8th world record. Auchgard was quickly approaching a barrier, a sub-25 minute run. He was 10 seconds away. Did he have that much time left to save? Well, there were still fractions of a second he could get from cleaner movement throughout the stages. In terms of stuff he'd gotten in a run before, all that time save would put him at 25:05, still 5 seconds away. But there was one other trick he could go for. It would be the hardest trick in the run by far, but it would get him to sub 25. This is 556. In the second half of the World 5 Fortress, the spiked walls move back and forth on a cycle throughout the entire level. Normally, with fast movement, you make it to the top and then have to wait a few seconds for the spikes to finish their cycle so you can get to the door.
Ooh, could you
Typically,
time it?
you enter the door with 546 left on the timer.
Time it so that it opens
However,
up perfectly.
With unbelievably fast movement, it's possible to barely reach the top a cycle early.
Okay.
You can just fit in before the spikes move and block your path, and you wind up reaching the door at 556. This was originally thought to be tool assisted only, as the precision involved is truly incredible. Your moves have to be just right, where the instant you land, you have to be starting your next jump up. But in late August 2016, Auchgard became the first human to pull off 556. He just barely squeezed in before the gap closed. But with this, he proved that it was a human viable trick. It saves 7.5 seconds, since the in-game timer moves a bit quicker than a real second, which means that when combined with the stages of 25:05, a sub 25 was indeed technically possible.
Technically.
So the goal was now in sight. With nobody else close to his skill level, Auchgard was the only one with any chance to do it.
Okay.
It was still a long shot goal, but at least there was a narrow path to sub 25. He would have to shave time off wherever he could, then nail 556 to get the bulk of the time save. If he could pull all that off, it would be an essentially unbeatable speedrun. For the rest of 2016, Auchgard played more than he ever had before. And over the next few months, this is what happened.
What happened? He gets a sub 25. Maybe even a sub 24? No. 25:09. Okay.
Oh my god.
Nice.
Did you get it?
Yep.
You did.
Yes.
Ooh. Imagine speedrunning with a Wii remote. That's crazy to think about. Not even like a normal controller. Although he could probably use a... I think there were
After weeks of
plug-in
trying,
controllers you could use
it
that were
happened.
normal.
The legendary, unimaginable sub 25.
Nice.
This was very close to being a perfect speedrun. At the end of a run that had gotten 556, that was 5 seconds ahead of the record, Auchgard was able to get a gold split on Bowser's Castle. It was the fastest he had ever completed the last stage in a run.
Wow.
His movement was impeccable, and he saved all the time he could. Auchgard could finally celebrate and take it easy.
But
He had
he
gotten
did not.
his ultimate run, and there was no need to bother defending it. And so, he didn't.
Oh. How long did he not
For
defend
the rest
it?
of 2016 and throughout 2017, nobody was really doing world record attempts in New Super Mario Bros. Wii. The community considered Auchgard's time to be essentially unbeatable. And it made sense why. First, you'd have to get 556, which fellow top runner Gix01 described as a 1 in 50 trick.
Jeez.
Then you'd have to find a way to save time in one of the other stages. Auchgard did not leave much room for this. And finally, you'd have to match his incredible Bowser's Castle split, which ended with a 511 on the in-game timer. As 2017 progressed, people did improve their times, but nobody was close to 2458. Entering 2018, it really did seem as though Auchgard had achieved an unbeatable world record. Auchgard himself felt that maybe on the outer limit, a 2455 would be possible. By doing quicker wall kicks in 5-4, doing spins later into jumps in the airship so Mario moved faster for longer, and other small optimizations like those. He stopped short of calling his record unbeatable, but it's clear that neither he nor anybody else in the community felt there was much wiggle room.
Nobody's perfect.
And then in April 2018,
Oh,
this happened.
someone new. What? Ooh.
2445.
What?
How on earth was that possible?
A new strat?
Well, certainly this run pulled out
A new
all
skip,
the stops,
perhaps?
like 556, right? No.
It's gotta
This
be a
run
new
didn't
discovered.
have 556, so
Yeah.
it lost a little over 7 seconds.
It's gotta be a newly discovered
Well,
skip.
certainly this time was achieved by an established runner like Auchgard, right? No. It was from a new runner named Fade Vanity.
A newcomer.
Alright, so what happened here? Well, Fade Vanity was a runner who quickly rose up the leaderboards in early 2018 until he had a low 25. He performed the 2445 on April 13th, 2018, and other than missing 556, the run was incredibly smooth from start to finish.
Okay.
8-2 in particular was fantastic, finishing with a nearly unheard of 424 on the in-game timer. But that's not why this run was the record. This run had a massive time save because of a huge new trick in the airship. And that trick is called Bombless.
Bombless. No bombs.
At the end of the World 8 airship, you have to fight Bowser Jr. The intended way to fight him is to wait for him to drop a bomb, then ground pound to send it back up to hit him. Do that 3 times and Bowser Jr. is defeated. For years, that's how players fought him in runs. However, in August 2017, runner I Love SMB found that in the world's 6th airship, it was possible to defeat Bowser Jr. by jumping on him 3 times, instead of using the intended clown cars. Runners then theorized that this could apply in the World 8 airship fight as well, which is what you do in an any percent run. However, the gap between Bowser Jr. and the top of the screen is smaller than Mario's hitbox, so despite players trying, nobody could fit in the gap to hit Bowser Jr. on the head. For a few months, that was the end of it. But in January 2018, former world record holder Green Uprooter figured it out. The key was Bowser Jr.'s movement. He not only moves horizontally, but also vertically in a sinusoidal
Slightly.
pattern, oscillating from a low point to a high point.
Barely.
So if you fly up to him, then perform a ground pound in a 1 to 2 frame
What?
window when Bowser Jr. is at the lowest
Oh
point
my
in his oscillation,
god. What?
Mario's hitbox briefly shrinks just enough to fit in the gap so you can hit Bowser Jr.
That's
If
crazy.
you're able to pull this off, it saves
That's
13
crazy.
seconds, an incredible amount of time for a run like this. The problem is, It's really difficult.
Yeah.
The only way to practice it was to load a file with propeller shrooms, then play the second half of the stage over and over.
Just practice.
When Green Uprooter first discovered it in January 2018, it was thought to be an RNG related trick because nobody could hit it with any consistency. In fact, it took 2 more months before somebody hit it in a run, when Gix got it in March. Doing Bombless saves up to 13 seconds, but doing double Bombless, where you skip 2 of the 3 bombs, saves up to 20. Triple Bombless would actually lose time since simply ground pounding the other bomb is faster.
Oh, that
But
makes sense.
despite double Bombless being theoretically known to be possible, nobody had ever performed it, even in practice. You'd have to hit the most precise trick in the game twice in a row. It just wasn't realistic. So that's what made it even more crazy when Fade Vanity got the world's first ever double bombless and finished the run as his 24:45 world record.
Wow, my god. That's crazy.
I did it! I did it. Oh my fucking god, I did it.
That's crazy.
Sadly, Fade Vanity quit speedrunning in 2021 and deleted all videos of his runs.
Jeez. Why'd you have to delete them?
Many of his world records are lost today, including his 24:45.
What?
A small amount of footage from this run and others were preserved in Connor01's record history video, so we can see glimpses of what he did. But when he set this record in April 2018, the community was absolutely shocked at his accomplishment.
Yeah,
And
that's
still,
crazy.
there was clearly more time to save. He didn't get 556, so a run in the 24:30s and possibly lower was possible. Fade Vanity was the new top runner of New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and while little footage remains of what he did over the next several months, his impact and legacy continue to this day. With time still left on the table, Fade Vanity committed to attempts, and went all out to drive the record down.
Okay. Ooh. Nice. Wall kicking there makes it easier.
Let's go. We fucking did it. Let's go. 3x. Come on. Let's go.
Nice. Saving the bomb hit on Bowser Jr. for the third, you don't have to wait for his stun animation. Faster way to end the escape. 24:29.
Let's take a stroll over to the new Super Mario Bros. Wii leaderboards. You've got a number of runners with a low 25-minute time, and a few that had just broken into the 24-minute barrier, with the lowest being a 24:57. Then, you have Fade Vanity, one of the most dominant record holders in all of speedrunning.
Wow.
He had set 5 records now, and when combining 556, double bombless, and tight execution all around, he managed to take it under 24:30. Fade took a break after this, and his record really didn't seem to be in jeopardy. A few months went by, and while runners like the Coding Boy and DCA did creep into the 24:40s, there was still a lot of separation. It had turned into a battle for second place, which changed hands a few times in late 2019. But nobody had a chance of catching Fade Vanity. Nobody had his consistency or skill. As for Fade himself, he initially didn't have much of a need to continue playing the category. But by early 2020, new strategies were found once again. The days of huge time saves seem to be in the past, but minor strategies like this would be crucial in finding time to save over the record. They both came in World 8 and were both found by Astix. In 8.1, normally you have to significantly slow down after propellering over this lava. However, by picking up and carrying a shell, you can throw it and end Mario's spin early, meaning you slow down much less.
Okay.
In 8.2, the rolling hills throughout the stage can destroy your speed. However, Astix found that by crouch jumping and releasing the crouch at the top of the jump, Mario's speed is reset back to normal, and once again you don't have to slow down as much. In total, these tricks saved about 1.5 seconds, meaning the potential was there for Fate to continue lowering the record.
My gosh.
And on January 9th, 2020, that's exactly what he did.
Boom! Gas!
Wow.
Broke the tie.
Broke the tie? What tie? Well, the new Super Mario Bros. Wii leaderboard was going through a transition at this point. See, whenever the game fades to black, it's loading what comes next. These loads vary from disc to disc, console to console, or even within the same disc or console.
Really?
Each load might only vary by a few tenths of a second, but over the course of a run, this can add up to 15 to 20 seconds.
Really?
That means that a player can have a much faster run, but fall behind because of loading times outside of their control. So, the community was transitioning towards subtracting all loads out of the final time. This would level the playing field, and as a byproduct, lower the time of each run by a bit over 2 minutes. Fade's 24:29 converted to a time of 22:20 without loads.
Okay.
In January
That
2020,
seems fair.
a runner named U-Video completed a run of 24:35 with loads that the community thought might have tied Fade's run when retimed without loads, hence the comments at the end of Fade's run. It ended up being just behind it with a 22:23, but when Fade got his 24:28, that removed all doubt, and Fade was securely on top once again. In March 2020, timing without loads was made official, and the world record was now a 22:19. It's also worth mentioning that in recent months, players discovered that the way they originally retimed runs added a couple seconds in certain cases. Fade's 22:19 was originally timed as a 22:21, but for this video I'll be using retimed times for accuracy.
Okay.
Through the first few months of 2020, the leaderboard was starting to get tight at the top. The record remained the same, but people like U-Video were now just seconds away. Fade Vanity had been in the top spot for over 2 years,
Wow.
setting 6 records and lowering the time by half a minute in the process. He was the third long-lasting record holder in the game's history, mirroring the domination that Rucker Z and Auchgard once had. But other players were starting to catch up. Everyone's record reign needs to end someday, and with increased pressure at the top of the leaderboard, it seemed inevitable that a breakthrough was coming. And on July 2nd, that breakthrough finally came.
Okay.
This is Pidgey.
Pidgey.
Pidgey was early on a clear candidate to take the record. He was a former world record holder in New Super Mario Bros. On the DS.
Really?
So making the switch to the Wii version came naturally to him. After running the game for just a few months, Pidgey was within seconds of Fade Vanity's time. And on July 2nd, 2020, he got a 22:19.4, just barely ahead of Fade for a new world record. New strategies in World 5 were a key for this run. There was an even easier method for getting 556, developed by Tutti Polo. By doing an additional wall kick here, you're set up to more easily make it to the second wall kick, and have a much better chance at getting the fast cycle. and in 5.3, Monster found a trick nicknamed the Weird Shell Strat, If you're fast enough, you arrive at this Koopa right after he stops to dance, and can then pick him up to kill the Bramball and save half a second.
Okay.
There's also randomness on the overworld maps. The World 1 Goomba moves 3 times clockwise, meaning there's one direction he never moves. If this one direction is up, you save 35 frames, since the Goomba's up animation takes the longest. On the other hand, if that one direction is down, you lose that time, since down is his shortest animation.
Dang.
World 5 has similar randomness with the Piranha Plant, but it's less understood than the Goomba. These two spots have about a second of time variance combined, which is entirely out of the player's control. So, in July 2020, this was the state of the new Super Mario Bros. Wii leaderboard. In first place, you had Pidgey, the newcomer who clearly had enormous potential. And just a half second behind him, you had Fade Vanity, the veteran who had proven himself time and time again. So, who was better? Well, just 4 days later, Pidgey would set his second world record,
Okay.
a slightly lower 22:19. He saved time by successfully getting the shell boost in 8-1, but lost a bit in Bowser's Castle. 2 records in a row from Pidgey. It seemed he might be there to stay. But just 2 weeks later, Fade Vanity was back.
Ooh.
Fade got a 22:18, marking the first time in the game's history that someone reclaimed the record after losing it.
Wow.
The time save mostly came from optimizing movement, and Fade was back on top. 6 days later, he was dethroned. A 22:16 from Pidgey, a run that matched the fastest he had ever performed Bowser's Castle before. In October, a 22:15 from Pidgey. A month later, a lower 22:15 from Fade Vanity. 2 weeks later, a new record from Pidgey. That was 7 world records in the last 5 months. One new option they had was Bombful in 5-4. This stage had many small movement optimizations over the years, but Bombful was the biggest one. Yacker Tracker found that if you precisely jump off the first bomb,
Dang.
spin at the right time to bounce off the second bomb,
Oh my
then
god.
do a blind twirl and bounce off the third bomb, it's possible to make it to the end of the stage without hesitating.
What?
It saves 2 seconds, but is incredibly difficult, and most players didn't choose to implement it.
Jeez.
A few months later, Pidgey would strike again with a remarkable 22:13. But in May, probably the most bizarre moment in the game's history took place.
In May.
A runner named Skippy had been a world record contender
Skippy?
for months, but perpetually remained a few seconds behind the top spot. His skill level was right there, but stringing everything together for a world record run is incredibly challenging.
I can
On
imagine.
May 2nd, Skippy got a run off to a good start, essentially remaining tied with Pidgey's record through World 5. However, he started bleeding time in World 8, with a worse transition into the pipe in 8-2 and some
No.
sloppy movement in the airship.
No.
Combined, these lost him a couple seconds, so despite matching Pidgey's Bowser's Castle, a new record was out of the question.
Poor Skippy.
Still, after the run he subtracted the loads, and he could see how much he missed the record by.
No.
He hadn't missed the record. Skippy had just gotten a 22:13.167, a new world record by half a second. This did not make sense. He was tied going into World 8, then lost some time and finished the run. He didn't gain that time back anywhere. It was still a very well executed run, but this should not have been world record. Yet somehow, the time was faster than Pidgey's run.
How is this possible?
What happened? Well, the community looked into it. Runner Curran Joseph made a video removing all gameplay from Skippy's run, leaving just the overworld screens and cutscenes. He then compared this video to Pidgey's non-gameplay sections. Everything was roughly in sync through Worlds 1 and 5. But then, they arrived at the cutscene after Stage 8-7.
Oh,
There it was. Skippy's cutscene was almost 2 seconds faster.
why?
Curran quickly figured out why. You have the choice of playing New Super Mario Bros. Wii in a 4:3 or 16:9
What?
aspect ratio.
It's quicker the other way?
Skippy played on a CRT TV, so he selected the 4:3 mode. The game runs identically in each mode for an any percent run, except during the cutscene after 8-7.
What?
In 4:3, black bars are added to the top and bottom of the screen. The game still loads these regions despite them not appearing visible. So, the airship above stage 8-7 loads when it's off screen, and the camera stops moving about 2 seconds sooner. Despite this seeming like an obvious find, players didn't discover this before Skippy's run because nearly all runners played on a flat screen in 16:9 mode. In fact, only one prior record holder played in 4:3. Rucker Z, way back in 2011 and 2012. The time save wasn't known about back then, so with it being unearthed nearly a decade later, there were suddenly 2 more seconds on the table.
Poor Skippy,
So
he's
now,
just playing
at
on a
the top of the
CRT.
leaderboard, you had 3 real
Poor old
record
Skippy.
contenders. Skippy was the first obvious one. He was the current record holder, and while he may have benefited from the faster cutscene, he was still an incredibly talented runner. The second contender was Pidgey. All he had done was set the record 6 times in the past.
Now they all
and he
need to get
was still competing to
CRTs.
lower it. But the third contender was someone I haven't mentioned yet.
Oh,
Someone who had snuck up to the top with a 22:15, just 2 seconds behind the record.
who is it?
This is Billy Joe 66.
What up, Billy Joe?
Billy began to ascend up the leaderboards in late 2020. By the end of the year,
late?
he was in
Wow.
the top 10, and a month later, he was a bona fide record contender. He'd had a tragic run in February that hit Bombful in 5-4 and was about 3 seconds ahead of the record into Bowser's Castle. Unfortunately, he misguided a fireball and had to use an extra one.
No.
And upon retiming the run, he missed world record by half a second.
Dang.
But Billy didn't give up there. He did thousands of attempts, and partially thanks to the boost given by playing on 4:3, he found himself on world record pace
The
with
CRT
regularity.
strat.
And a
the
few weeks
CRT
after
skip.
Skippy's record, Billy was on another run deep. He
The
lost a
boomer
bit
skip.
of time in the second half of World 5, but cleaned up the mistakes that Skippy had made in World 8. With about half a second lead, he entered Bowser's Castle and tried to close it out for good. Billy's run finished at 22:12.367,
Okay.
a world record by just under a second.
Wow.
He was now the 7th record holder in the game's history,
Not bad.
and he had earned it. This was his 59th run to the airship since his last major personal best.
Jeez.
He had finally been able to chain together double Bombless and a clean Bowser's Castle, and the result was a world record.
Wow.
Once again, the game was approaching a barrier. With all time saves being utilized, a time under 22:10 was starting to seem feasible. But what time was left to save? Well, most of it was in World 5. Cleaner movement would save a second in 5-4, and Bombful would save a couple more. There were also minor improvements to be made in the Fortress and Ghost House. Those time saves would add up to a run just under 22:10. But there was work to do to get to that point. The record was still about 2.4 seconds away from a sub 22:10. As time goes on, most speedruns see smaller and smaller improvements to their records, and New Super Mario Bros. Wii was no exception. The last several records had all been improvements by a second, or half a second, or even less than that. To get an improvement of 2.4 seconds, you have to go 11 records back in time,
It's
to
crazy.
Fade Vanity's 24:29. The point is, it was gonna take a while to get the record under 22:10.
Yeah.
Multiple improvements would have to be made, and players would have to grind hundreds or thousands of attempts. An incredible run was on the horizon, but it would take time to get it there. And then, in one attempt, Pidgey decided to lay waste to it all.
Let's see it, Pidgey.
He saved the time in World 5, hitting everything but Bombful. He got the Shell Boost in 8-1 and the Crouch Jumps in 8-2. After hitting double Bombless, it became all the more real. This was easily world record pace, but was it sub 22:10 pace? Maybe. It was right on the border between 22:09 and 22:10. It was coming down to the wire. Pidgey just had to finish the escape, and the sub 22:10 could be his.
Will he make it? Come on, Pidgey, fly! Spread your wings. Get that record.
New Super Mario Bros.
Did he
Wii
miss
has
it?
motion controls for certain actions. If you shake the Wii remote with the propeller suit, you fly into the air.
No, did he miss
Pidgey
it?
had made it to the end, then put down his controller to hit the split button.
No.
But he did it a fraction of a second too soon, and it registered as a spin.
What?
At first,
no.
the community wasn't sure if this would still be a world record. They couldn't tell until
Is
they
it?
removed the loads and retimed it. And when they did,
Is it?
Pidgey found out that he had missed the world record by 2 frames.
No.
It goes without saying
No,
how hard it is
Pidgey!
to come back from moments like this.
Poor
When you're
Pidgey, no.
so close and lose your ultimate goal to something as trivial as motion controls. And
That's
it's
so
exceptionally hard to
lame.
accept when you have competitors like Pidgey did.
No.
Billy still had the world record, and Skippy was just 1 second behind. He had done nearly 4,000 attempts, ran the game for over 2 years, and had never had a pace this good this deep into the run.
No.
And sadly, there was no telling when he'd get there again.
Does he? Oh.
11 days later,
What?
Pidgey had pulled a Dave Steeb. It took him just a week and a half to get back on the exact same pace.
Let's go, Pidgey.
And I mean the exact same pace. It was almost an identical run into Bowser's Castle. He'd had a nearly flawless World 5 other than skipping Bombful, and hit the same tricks in World 8. He nailed double Bombless, and just like that, Pidgey had given himself another chance. Once again, he had to get through the escape.
Come on, Pidgey. Don't let crappy Wii motion controls fail you now. Don't put that controller down. Come on.
Redemption for Pidgey. His
Let's go.
miss from 11 days ago could have haunted him for months.
Yeah.
But instead, in one straight shot, Pidgey had jumped all the way to sub 22:10.
Wow.
It was a landmark world record. And as the community celebrated, it was pretty clear that this one was gonna stand for a while. There were still other competitors at the top, but Pidgey had gotten nearly everything you could get in a speedrun of the game.
Wow.
It was too tall of an order. And so, throughout the rest of 2021 and into 2022, Pidgey's 2209 remained alone at the top. In early 2022, competition continued to increase. New names appeared in the top 10, and pressure was starting to mount. But Pidgey's records still remained strong.
So good.
The fact that he had gotten a 2209 when nobody else could get below a high 2211 was indicative of his skill level. Even after months of attempts from the world's best runners, no one was beating it.
Wow.
The simple fact was, without getting Bombful in 5-4, Pidgey's record would be next to impossible to beat. And nobody was up to the task of getting it in a fast enough run. Until Billy came back.
Oh god.
On
Billy.
March 26th, 2022, Billy had a fairly clean run into World 5. He hit Bombful in 5-4, gaining a couple of seconds over the record and instantly making his run much more serious.
Okay.
He then gained more time in the ghost house via the meme jump through the boo ring. Unfortunately, he lost time in both 8-7 and the airship.
Oh no.
So despite making it through double bombless, he was about even with the record into Bowser's Castle. He'd need an unbelievable last stage for this to have a shot at the record. And all Billy did was proceed to have the best Bowser's Castle ever performed in a record run.
Oh my god.
And he beat Pidgey by less than 0.2 of a second.
Oh no, poor
This
Pidgey!
run is the current world record of New Super Mario Bros. Wii.
Wow, good job, Billy.
Sub 22 might seem
That's
close,
crazy.
but right now it's quite unrealistic. A theoretical God run could clock in a few seconds above 22 minutes, but it's hard to see a path to a record below that at the moment.
Wow.
That being said, I have little doubt it'll one day come. Eventually, we'll hear of a 21-minute any percent run, but that day is not today.
One day.
This is the history of New Super Mario Bros. Wii World Records.
Wow.
Thanks for watching.
Wow, that Pidgey. That Pidgey fail was so bad. No. Hasn't speedrun Rose in 5 years. Still actually runs other games. 2-time record holder. Still holds the record and streams runs to this day. Okay, nice. Fade Vanity. Retired from speedrunning. Returns to streaming but doesn't intend to grind world records. Okay. Respectable. It's fine. Ran the game off and on until 2020. He reached 4th and still in the top 20. Okay. Pidgey remains an active runner. Behind the world record, trying to get it back. Poor Pidgey! Oh no. Riker Z. Hasn't submitted a speedrun since 2013. But his video got millions of views. Nice. Skippy. Taking a break. Wishes to contend for the record again soon. Matt Turk. He has not speedrun this game. Yet. Uh-oh. Is that what SummoningSalt wants? Does he want Matt Turk to speedrun it? Okay, wow. My goodness. That was crazy. Crazy, crazy. Hey there, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you want to see more of my content, feel free to subscribe. If you want to see even more content, I film all of my videos live on my Twitch channel. Feel free to click the first link in the description. Be sure to follow my Twitch channel and know exactly when I go live. Interact with me live on stream, as well as other people in chat, and see a look behind the scenes on every video that I film. Thank you so much. Bye.